Hey guys, welcome to Unclarity, the podcast where we talk about things that don't quite make sense and we leave them that way. So, we're going to try something different this episode and we're going to do some recording of the podcast video. It's going to be posted at the Facebook page and on YouTube. Both of them are Unclarity Podcast. Very easy to find. So, one of the things that made me want to do this is that it seems like having a face to the interaction sometimes for some people might be a little bit more inviting, and so we're gonna try this for a little bit. I ended up having to buy some extra batteries for the camera because I think it only records for about 35 minutes. So since this is the first one we're doing this, it'll be a little bit shorter of an episode, and you can see it. You know, anyone who is on the audio podcast, you can't see that I'm waving at you right now, but yeah, this it's pretty exciting. It's gonna be something else just to add to things and keep the pace going. So let's get right into this. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do with this project is just kind of be able to ask questions comfortably and like have conversations comfortably. And it's really, really hard to do, at least here in the beginning, right? Because one of the things that I'm trying to do is say things in a way that sounds different, but really a large majority of the things that I'm doing is like just reversing orders or changing orders. Sorry. And so, for whatever reason, that's kind of scary for people. An example of this is I posted a video that says that we should talk less about sin, right? And now the argument for this, as far as doctrine goes, it's completely the same idea as our normal gospel, right? It's that we need Jesus to be saved, blah blah. That's all the same. Like the Holy Trinity's still there. Like everything is all the same. The thing that changes is that I say, let's talk more about Jesus up front. Like, let's get that part established in the beginning, and then we can let people know about their sin. Like, you don't have to lead from the get-go saying that, you don't have to determine, like, let's just see how hard I can hit someone with this book to get them to convert. That's my only thing, is like, let's try to show people the grace and understanding and patience that Jesus showed people in the Bible. And to my surprise, this message or this idea of more Jesus is apparently a dangerous message, which blows my mind, right? That the idea of talking more about Jesus could be considered a dangerous thing. Like, I'm speechless. I'm literally speechless at some of the conversations that, well, they're not even conversations. They're just, and that's another thing. People in Christianity have hardly any idea, or let me say it like this: the average person in Christianity has no idea how to make an effective argument. And the only thing that I can chalk that up to is that they're just not even trying, right? They have this blind faith. They're just like, whatever my pastor says, that's what I'm going with. But the thing is, like, I don't think that we're supposed to stop there. Like, I think we're supposed to keep going and asking questions. And it seems like the modern church has no ability to disagree or have a conversation in a way that's productive. Like, every single one of these conversations that I've had through YouTube comments, like I posted this like crappy video on Pastor Carl Lentz from the Hillsong Church, and just kind of not really defending him, but just telling people to kind of chill out. Like, look, the dude's not that bad, Like he hasn't changed the he hasn't changed his standing on things, but he has presented it in a way that he can still interact with celebrities and hopefully change celebrities' lives. Like my whole sentiment with him is like, I have no idea what his heart is, what his personal opinion is, and I don't think it's my place to remove what he believes in. It's just not. Especially when most of what he taught is pretty much on par with your traditional churches. The only difference is that he went on a public television show with a massive audience, and unlike most Christians, he avoided getting put in this corner that inevitably leads to complete like attacks, right? And you get these like horrible people, not only in the world, right, but Christians who attack the dude. And I don't see why. It doesn't make any sense. So one of the big things that I try to ask people to do is like, we can't interact with him in a way that we're not going to know what his heart is for people unless we sit down and have like a genuine, patient conversation with him. And none of these people are interested in doing that, right? So my thing with these people is like, instead of focusing on tearing someone down who at least thinks he's trying to do something for the Lord, why don't we just say a prayer for him and hope that the people he's reaching he's doing it effectively and he's doing it in the right way? Why don't we say a prayer for him instead of attacking him? Like, this whole structure of approaching people who kind of think differently is just so backwards. It's so flipped, and I don't know. I cannot comprehend it. It's just, it blows my mind. And so one of these guys, because Carl Lentz, apparently hangs out with Jay-Z, the dude brings up, like, do you think Paul would have hung out with Jay-Z? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, also Jesus probably would too. The guy, Jesus, right, who would have hung out with prostitutes and tax collectors, the absolute worst people, that Jesus that you claim to worship. And then he comes back at me. I put a lot of effort into my responses to him, and he comes back to me, ignores everything I said, and he goes, well, Jay-Z's come out and he's confirmed that he hates Christians and he is working for Satan. And my point is, so Paul would have something in common with him. You remember Paul was Saul at one point, right? And Saul was like on a mission to murder. He murdered Christians. So they would have something in common. So you're not helping your case. Like, that's the thing about these people, is they pick these specific little, like, well, this is this, but they leave out so many other parts of this person's story, of this person's like legacy, right? And you can't do that. Number one, the Bible tells us not to. So if you read the thing literally, stop doing it. I mean, it blows my mind. It just I cannot even put it into words, because these conversations just don't go anywhere. And like I say, if you make a valid point, it just immediately gets shut down. And here I am, one Bible-believing Christian, or at least Bible-trusting. I mean, I don't know how you can constitute, what is 100% accurate. I don't know that we're capable of having things 100% accurate. So here I am as a Christian to another Christian, just trying to have a conversation, and the other supposed Christian just can't allow it. Like, I don't come to these places from a position of wanting to tear someone down. Like, if anything, I want both of us to hopefully come away with something positive and helpful. but I just don't see that out of most people, and it's just it's the strangest thing to me. It's just so weird to me. But I mean, that's just how people are. It's strange to me. But I don't know how else to do it other than just to be patient and wait for the right people to come around, because I know they're out there, right? It's this weird thing of like just starting this thing out, and this is why I'm like doing this stuff, like is to document like the growth of this project, this Unclarity project. Is like, here in the beginning, it's a lot of these like super fundamentalist people who, when I post a video titled Carl Lentz Exposed, they're going to come expecting that dude to be exposed. So I'm getting these fundamentalists who kind of get the bait and switch, if you will, and they're getting mad, right? I haven't figured out how to tap into the people that I'm actually looking for, which are people who are interested in learning about Jesus, right? That's one of the things that I said in the video that I just put up a couple days ago, was that there's so much media that's already catered to, and I think I said this in the first podcast, there's so much media that's already catered to pre-existing or already established Christians, but there's nothing for people who are not Christians or who are on the fence about Christianity. There are no people who are curious. There's nothing for people who are curious about the faith, and I don't see how that helps in terms of trying to reach people for God. I don't see how having stuff that just helps to build Christians up themselves, I would understand it if the next Chris Tomlin CD led you to go out and preach the word. Okay, I get that, but I don't see that happening a lot. Yet here we are with a Chris Tomlin that's worth $2 million. And that's just weird to me, because he's not even that good. He's just not. Like I get it. I get the appeal, and I understand that it's important to be able to have like safe media to consume. But you do have to consider that all of this stuff can't just be for us. Our goal is supposed to be to reach people, and I don't see that happening very much. So I don't know. That's my thing here, is like, I'm not coming after the fundamentalist Christians. I'm not coming after the people who are dead set and they already know like everything that they need to know. I'm going after the people who are wanting it, who are trying to find something that is meaningful, right? So all these people who think that that they can leave their comments and their thumbs down, it's like, dude, I didn't make this for you. You're not supposed to like it, You're not supposed to feel good about it. So it is what it is, but it just blows my mind that people who agree that a certain facet of faith is important. So like I don't know, I feel like a large majority of the things that we believe we all agree on. And then there's these little nuances that separate us, that separate Christians, right? And my whole mindset is like, why would someone want to join Christianity when Christians can't even get their own crap together? Like, Christians can't even figure out who they like amongst themselves. Like, I don't see how that's logical thinking. Well, it's not logical thinking, that's why. But another place where I see this is I'm studying some Universalism, right? Because it's just an interesting topic. I heard it brought up a long time ago in a few podcasts, actually, because I own a little landscaping business, and when I work, I just listen to podcasts. Literally, you're talking 12 hours a day worth of podcasts. And so I heard about Universalism, and I decided to start dabbling in it and digging into it. And quite frankly, looking at the thing as a whole, it just goes, if you're traditional church versus Universalism, like, it's literally it shouldn't matter either way which one you pick, because the core belief of Jesus came, he died for your sins, and you believe in him to be able to go to heaven. You have faith in him to be able to go to heaven. That is in both Universalism and your traditional churches. And pretty much everything else in Universalism and your traditional church is the same. The thing that's not the same is basically what state of hell there is, which, I mean, it's such a stupid idea to debate and to separate ourselves over, right? Because here are some of the arguments, right? When people look at Universalists, they say, well, if there's no... So Universalists, for those of you that don't know... Oh, got an alarm going on. Sorry. So Universalism, for those of you that don't know, they basically don't believe in hell, right? They think that, there's probably like a temporary holding, if you will, and then God will reconcile everything, and everybody will get to go to him. So that's Universalist. And then your traditional church is basically, if you don't choose Jesus, you're going to hell forever and ever and ever. And they believe that some people are just predestined to go. So your traditional church asks Universalism, so what keeps you from just sinning all the time? If it doesn't really matter, what keeps you from sinning? Well, because Universalists believe, for the most part, there's a lot of really nitpicky things, but for the most part, they believe that if you do accept Jesus before death, there will be no separation from God. Now, that sounds a lot like the traditional church, doesn't it? Because it is. It's the same thing. The only difference is for a Universalist, you avoid just being held away from God. And for your traditional church, you avoid burning in hell. But since both parties have accepted Jesus, since the Universalist and the Calvinist, for example, have accepted Jesus, they both end up in heaven according to their belief, their mindset. So it doesn't make sense, like, why these two groups would debate, because if the traditional Christian believes that faith in Jesus means you go to heaven, well, the Universalists believe that faith in Jesus means you go to heaven. I hope this is making sense. But there's a debate, and people get called out and taken down, and like, you're a false prophet, and you're this and you're that. It's weird to me, because you're debating around an issue that, again, it's a snake. It eats itself. It goes in a circle. Dog chasing its own tail. It blows my mind. There was another part of that I wanted to get into. Oh, it's the I might have to look for my notes and like edit this out, but I don't want to do that. This is awkward. Okay. So but yeah, I mean, the whole thing just kind of eats in on itself. And one of the things that blows my mind is just that Christians can separate themselves over such little things. And this is it. This is the thing I want to get into. Your Universalists seem a lot more kind. So I've had some like brief, discussions with a Universalist, right? And when I ask the question, why does it matter which camp you're in? He says, oh, I don't care. It really doesn't to most Universalists. Like, as long as you believe, like, you're cool with them. Like, that's the thing. But your traditional church member, you're like, if you don't believe in this certain particular version of hell, yep, you're going. Like I don't see what that logic is. Like, there's nothing, like, Francis Chan makes the point, right, that we are not capable of understanding the way that God thinks. So when a Universalist asks the question, would a moral God put us in would a moral God put us in hell forever? Like, he says that, well, we're not wired to understand what moral is in God's eyes. The problem with that argument is that it also applies to Francis Chan, right? His idea that he presents in that very statement is just his understanding of what he thinks a moral and just God might be. So even that conversation eats itself. And then the question is, where do they get their moral compass from? Like, where does anybody get their moral compass from? Like, it's all from the same place. Like, anybody, look at all the Christian pastors in the traditional church who get arrested and accused, and like, it's all the same. So that doesn't make any sense, you know. And you know, if you can't use one. Oh, my camera's blanking. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted. Anyway, the whole conversation just eats itself. And let me reset this camera. Okay, sorry. I don't know why it was doing that. I might have to reset some settings. But anyway, the next thing I wanted to get into, now that we've got past that, is I had some insomnia last night, and I was scrolling through Reddit, or in other words, the hell of the internet. And I found this page that basically, it was really interesting because this person asked, does anyone feel like your life was held back by your Christian upbringing? And I think this is an interesting thing to just kind of go through on the show, just to sort of maybe make people think, right? So I'm just going to read this post, and because it really kind of felt like a genuine thing, right, that someone was struggling with. And so here we go. I want to read this to you guys. It says, quote, I was raised in a non-denominational megachurch. I went to the affiliated school for elementary because my parents were horrified at the idea of me being exposed to non-Christian children. Well, God forbid, this is me now, well, God forbid that someone has an opportunity, even a child, to potentially reach out to someone. Back to the story. When my parents fell too far behind on the tuition, great example, parents, you got your stuff together, they can't afford tuition that they couldn't afford. I was thrown into a public school and quickly realized I was extremely far behind on the curriculum. Say that 5 times fast. I couldn't keep up with any of my classes. I could still recite a crap ton. Didn't use the word crap. I'm censoring for you guys. Thank you. A crap ton of Bible verses. She could still recite those. I was absolutely that weird preachy kid that would go up to random strangers and tell them that God told me to pray for them. I was absolutely obsessive about my faith. I remained a failing C student for the rest of middle and high school. My parents never tried to encourage me or get my grades up to do my homework. Education didn't matter to them because it was always assumed that I'd be a childbearing homemaker who lived to serve her God-fearing husband and go to church. Okay. I never thought to plan for my future because it was in God's hands. When I was in high school, I said yes to the first boy who asked me out because I thought God had picked him out for me. He ended up raping me. I felt obligated to stay with him because a woman is only supposed to have one partner in her life. I thought I had to marry him and allow him to do whatever he wanted to me. So again, this is me again. Great job, parents, on taking care of your kid. Back to the story. If it happened, it had to be God's will. I had so much shame inside of me. Shame for telling him no. Shame for what he did to me. Shame for being tempted to ask God why. This lasted for 2 years. I felt lost out of... I felt like I lost out on a lot of fun when I was younger because I had the holier-than-thou attitude. I was always in long relationships. The end goal was always to marry the one God chose for me. I didn't get to date around or have fun like kids are supposed to. Now I look back at that life and I physically cringe. Losing my faith was hard, not because I was sad to lose my connection to God, but because suddenly the loneliness of those horrible things that happened to me had a purpose now, had no purpose, and now I was left to deal with those memories on my own. Now I have an amazing husband who basically had to teach me to deal with my problems because my whole life I just prayed things without actually trying to find a solution. I have no way to contribute significantly financially because I never took school seriously to consider a career. If it weren't for my extreme upbringing, I would have gone to college and gotten a degree. I would have found passion to work towards, or at least be qualified in some kind of living wage paying job to ease the burden on my husband. I would have had some kind of self-worth or basic standards when it came to men. Maybe I would have made some genuine friends if I had been allowed to pursue any interest besides the Bible. I feel like Christianity took all that away from me and more. Does anyone have similar experiences? And so there's this whole thread of people who are just like, yeah, pretty much. Some aren't as, bad as others, but like, this is just so indicative of how poor some of these families can get, right? I'll make a really good example of this. If you go on YouTube and you look up the BBC documentary of Steven Anderson, this dude is the most cancerous pastor you will ever find. And they show a segment of his wife, and she's just the most, defeated looking person, right? And that's just the thing, is there are certain sections and certain versions of this faith that we call Christianity that it's just toxic, and it's so harmful. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, that's the loudest version, and that's the version that people hear and associate Christianity with the most. And it's just a shame. It doesn't have to be that way, You can approach even the ideas of doing the private school and, having the wife who is at home making things. You can even approach those ideas in a more loving way, in a way that doesn't completely destroy everyone involved except for you, except for the man of the house, right? And that's what ticks me off, is you get these men. If you're looking on the video, you see me doing air quotes, but you get these men of the house, and they're just it almost feels like they're so empty, they're just reciting little passages. I think we've all seen the videos of the little kid preachers, right? Who they don't really comprehend it, but they're just reciting and recycling the sounds and the movements that they've seen and heard. That's all these pastors that are men that are that way. That's all they feel like, is just empty shells of just regurgitation of these weird concepts. And it's just destructive. But I would encourage anyone who is who wants to experience what Christianity does and how Christianity can sometimes come across, go on Reddit and just look up these stories. Because it's just, some of this stuff is just sickening. It really is. And you can say all you want that, that's not what we are. That's not what Christianity is. That's not it. But here's the deal. That's what you're perceived as. And whether you like it or not, the way you are perceived is everything, right? If you're serious about reaching people and doing this thing right, you got to work on how people see you. If people don't see you as a loving and kind group of people, then you're not. You're just, that's it. It's hard to to come back from stories like that, right? And it's very counterintuitive. It just doesn't make any sense to me, given some of the things that people claim that they're out to do. But I don't know. I think this is a good place to end it on a wildly depressing note. But but yeah, we'll end it there, and yeah, we'll see if we can get this video up. Be sure, if you're interested in this project at all, helping out, contributing, leave messages if you've seen anything. We'll put a lot more videos going up on the YouTube channel, and try to get some videos up on the Facebook. I don't know if I want to do that there yet or not, but this will definitely be on the Facebook page in video form, and hopefully, if it works out smoothly, all the other ones will be too. So, anyway, yeah, I'm glad I got to do this. Like I say, I had some insomnia last night, so I was just up thinking and had ideas. And like I say, I didn't sleep a wink, and I'm ready to go. Like, it's just a weird thing that happens. And of course, tonight I'll be out very nicely. So, yeah, check out all of the links and the website and everything. The blog, just check out everything because it'll help out. Every time you click, it makes me feel good because it's like, oh, someone's seen it. And check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/unclarity. I think the lowest rank there is $2 a month, and if we get up to $20 as our first goal, that'll get us on iTunes, and that'll be just huge for the show. So make a huge difference. And so yeah, just go there if you want to support it, and I look forward to hearing from you guys on this one whenever you start listening. And yeah, have a good day.